October 14th edition of the MMAOB Daily podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. You can follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin, and this podcast is available, as always, at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Also, check me out at bjpen.com and MMARags.net. Got a lot to talk about today, guys. A couple of events on the weekend, quite a bit of MMA, some really good cards. A lot to get into. Let's get right into it right now. I'm going to start with UFC Tampa, and then I'll work my way through PFL and also Bellator. All right, UFC Tampa, great card, awesome card, really good fights. The fans of Tampa were treated to a really good card, so I've got a ton to talk about here. Oh, man, where do we begin? Okay, I'll start with the main event. Joanna Jedrzejczyk defeats Michelle Waterson via unanimous decision. Pretty much a 50-45 score on all three. I think one judge had a 49-46, but I think most people had a 5-0 for Joanna. So really no surprise here, I don't think. Solid performance by her for sure. Takes out Michelle Waterson, a much smaller fighter. You got to remember that Michelle is a very solid and technical fighter, but she's much smaller than Joanna, and she really did use her size against the fence to, I think, kind of tire Michelle out. And on the feet, she just picked her apart. To me, this fight wasn't really that close. It wasn't super competitive. It was pretty much a blowout for Joanna. So good for her. She gets the win. I don't feel like we learned anything about her, though. Anything we didn't know. We already knew she was a great striker. We already knew she had great takedown defense. So to me, it's like, yeah, it was a great performance, but I wasn't like super blown away or anything. If she went out there and knocked out Michelle in the first round, I would have been super blown away. It was still a great performance. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like we didn't know that she was a great fighter already. I think people forgot how good Joanna really is. Like, I was looking at the UFC rankings yesterday. Nina Ansaroff is ranked above Joanna. To me, that's insane. I don't understand how any voter, even the stupid ones that UFC has, could have voted Nina Ansaroff above Joanna. That's just super weird to me. So I feel like maybe she was a little bit slept on coming into this, but I don't know why. Like, she lost to Rose and she lost to Valentina at 125. Still a great fighter, still a great talent. But again, I personally didn't feel like we learned anything new about her. Having said that, I want to see her get a title shot. I want to see her fight Weili Zhang. I think that's a great fight. Awesome matchup, two strikers going at it. Let's see it. So to me, that's the fight to make. Thankfully, it looks like her foot is not broken. It looked like during the fight that she might have broken her foot. She said afterwards she thought she broke it as well, but apparently the x-rays came back negative, so that's a good thing. As for Michelle Waterson, I mean, listen, good for her. She's tough and she made it the full 5 rounds, but she didn't want to. She wasn't there for a participation trophy. She wanted to win the fight. She didn't get the job done. So for her, I can see why she was so upset after the fight. I saw the post-fight interview. She was in absolute tears. Very reminiscent of Daniel Cormier. Like, these fighters put so much into their camps, and when they come up short, it's very difficult. So for Michelle Waterson, she probably feels like she let her family down, her daughter down. But really, I mean, to me, it was just a bad matchup on paper, and she lost a bad matchup. I don't think too many people expected Michelle Waterson to win, and she didn't get the job done. So Joanna wins the decision, probably gets a title shot. As for Michelle Waterson, still a top 10 fighter, but honestly, unless they open up that 105-pound division, the atomweight division, I don't really see her holding a UFC belt anytime soon. All right, I'll talk about that later, Markus. I'm going to get through the UFC Tampa card first. Let's go for the co-main event here. Cub Swanson defeats Kron Gracie via unanimous decision. I did pick this upset correctly. I'm glad about that. Actually, I had a great night of picks, 12-2, so one of my better nights of the year. Really had some good reads on this card, including this fight. And again, I feel like Cubs just didn't get much respect. 36 fights compared to 5 for Kron. That's a big difference. So to me, the experience was the biggest difference here. That's why I picked him as underdog. Kron Gracie, very tough. I think probably better striking than we actually gave him credit for. But Cub Swanson, as long as this fight was going to stay on the feet, he was always going to win this fight. So he gets the job done, snaps the 4-fight losing streak. And again, it's one of those situations where you can't just look at the guy's record and be like, okay, he's on a 4-fight losing streak. Kron Gracie's undefeated. He should win. It's not how it works. It's matchups. Cub Swanson, as long as this fight was going to stay standing, he was always going to have an edge. And he did. So good for him. He gets the job done, snaps his 4-fight losing streak. And now we'll see what's next for him. He's calling for a rematch with Korean Superboy, Doo Choi. I love that fight. Now, Doo Choi apparently is on his social media this morning saying he'll take that fight in Busan at the end of the year. I'd love to see that fight. I was at the first one in 2016. Incredible fight. I know it doesn't make sense because Cubs coming off a win and Doo hasn't fought really in almost 2 years since he got knocked out by Jeremy Stevens, but the fans want to see this fight. So to me, that card actually could use some more star power. Cub Swanson versus Doo Choi, sign me up for that. Great fight. And Cub Swanson's not even a ranked fighter right now. So honestly, it doesn't affect the rankings at all. And it's a fight the fans, I think, would want to see. And as for Kron, it's a loss, but it's not a big deal. You know what? Honestly, he didn't look that bad, in my opinion. He actually was pretty tough, and he stayed in the feet. I would have liked to see him go for some more takedowns somehow, but Cub Swanson was able to throw off any of his attacks, and for some reason he was kind of stubborn and just wanted to stand with him when he really should have been trying for takedowns instead the entire fight. So Kron loses, but he'll be back. Next up, one of the best knockouts of the night, incredible finish. Nico Price knocks out James Vick with an up kick from the bottom. Incredible knock by Nico Price. I've been hyping this guy for a couple years now. He is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. He is incredible to watch. Exciting win, lose, or draw. I don't think he's had a draw yet, but he had no contest. So pretty much the same thing. This guy's amazing, man, to watch. Honestly, he's just so much just excitement. And in my opinion, he should be due for a big fight here. I know he's not ranked right now, but Robbie Lawler needs an opponent, and I'd rather see Nico Price get that fight than Mike Perry. I know Mike Perry's calling for it. Listen, Mike Perry's a good fighter. He's a very solid fighter coming off a very tough fight against Vicente Luque, but Nico Price, I think, deserves that fight a little bit more. I really do. So that's the fight I'd like to see, unless they give it to Jeff Neal, which is fine with me as well. But Robbie Lawler should be fighting one of these guys right now. Santiago Ponzinibbio is out, so I think one of Price or Jeff Neal personally should get that fight. Both guys coming off a win. Mike Perry coming off a loss should fight someone else. This is my opinion. I'm okay with, I guess, if they do the Perry fight against Lawler, but in my opinion, Nico Price should get that fight, or Jeff Neal, because man, these guys are just so exciting, and I feel like they're just on the verge of breaking out to the top 15. And Jeff Neal did beat Nico Price in the summer, so if he wants that fight first, I think they should offer it to him. But man, Nico Price is exciting, guys. He is so much fun to watch. Second knockout win in UFC from the bottom. You don't see that very often. It's very, very rare, and we've seen it twice from Nico Price now. So this guy is just, he's unbelievable. He's so creative. Now, as for James Vick, wow. I mean, this might be it for him in the UFC. 4 straight losses now, and he's been knocked out 3 of his last 4 fights. The move to welterweight did not play out very well for him. I think he thought his chin would be more durable. In fact, it didn't look good at all. So unfortunately for James Vick, he suffered another knockout loss. He says he didn't break his jaw, so that's good. But 4 straight losses now. To be fair, he's 9-5 in the UFC, so he still has a good record in the UFC. But 4 straight losses, I think this guy's hit his ceiling. The ceiling was Francisco Trinaldo and Joe Duffy, those kind of guys, borderline top 20, top 25 guys. Once he's made his way to the top 15, he doesn't have a chance really. So James Vick, 4 straight losses. They might keep him around for one more fight, but I would not be surprised if the UFC let him go. And even if they don't let him go, this guy should not be fighting for like another year. I mean, he really needs to take a break right now and really just rest up that chin, because 3 knockout losses in the last 14 months, that's not good. All right, next up, Amanda Ribas defeats Mackenzie Dern via decision. This is one of the fights I got wrong. Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance by her. She looked solid. I still think Dern had some ring rust coming off that 1.5 year layoff and having the child, but you know what? Gonna give Ribas credit, man. She looked good in this fight. That's 2 straight wins after a 3-year layoff herself. So really no excuses about the layoff win. She had a 3-year layoff. She's 8-1 now in her career. She's only 26 years old. She's pretty solid. She looked good in this fight. Looked good against Emily Whitmire. Time for a top 15 opponent. I'm not sure they give her, but I was looking at the rankings. Again, I hate the rankings, but just to give us something to talk about here. Karolina Kovacevic is ranked number 14. Doesn't have a fight. I think Ribas versus Kovacevic makes sense. Or even Tisha Torres. She's ranked number 13. And for Mackenzie Dern, back to fighting an unranked opponent, I guess. I mean, I still think Dern is going to be solid in the UFC. I think she will be a contender one day, but I don't know if it's at 115. I think 125 might be a better weight class for her. But either way, she didn't look good in this fight. But again, I feel like the 1.5 year layoff played a factor in that. So I'm not going to just write her off just yet. A lot of people don't like Mackenzie Dern. I don't know why, personally. I think it's just jealousy. But I think she's a solid fighter, just had a bad night. Next up, very, very entertaining fight in a close split decision here. Matt Frevola edges out a split over Luis Pena. This is a close fight. I mean, really could win either way. I personally scored for Pena. I had him 29-28 or maybe 29-27 because that second round easily could have been a 10-8 round. But it came down to the first round. 2 judges had it for Frevola 10-9. Super close. I had it for Pena 10-9. But again, it was one of those fights that I personally won't complain about the decision because it was super, super close. Frevola gets the win here, 8-1-1 now in his career. Good for him. Tampa native gets the job done on home soil. 2-1-1 record in the UFC now. And then Luis Pena, 7-2 now. Unfortunately for Pena, 2-2 in the UFC, 3-2 actually, excuse me. But the 2 losses by split decision. So it's very, very close to being an undefeated guy, but he lost 2 fights, so that sucks. I will say this, man, what a great walkout. Move Your Body, Girl, or whatever. That was a great song. So, man, great walkout by Luis Pena, but he didn't get the job done. And also, during that fight, he attempted this crazy submission that apparently is called a buggy choke. I have not seen that before, but Caposa posted a video of that. I believe it's called a buggy choke. Super creative. That would have been sweet if he achieved that submission. But either way, Favreau edges it out. This was the other fight I got wrong. Got all the other fights correct on this card. And this one could have went either way. So it's all good. And then this other fight, opening up the main card, Eric Anders against Gerald Meerschaert. Another fight that really could have went either way. I did score for Gerald Meerschaert, though. I thought he won 29-28, but Anders gets the job done with a split. Eric Anders now on a 2-fight win streak. Overall in the UFC, he is I think he's 5-4 now. So, he hasn't been as good as I think we thought he would, but he's still pretty raw in MMA. 17 fights now, but he only started MMA a few years ago. So this guy's a great athlete, and he's a solid fighter, but clearly I feel like he has a ceiling in the sport. I think it's a borderline top 15 guy. I don't know if it's much more than that. And I hate to say that because he's a talented dude and he can finish the right opponent, but Gerald Meerschaert is a very durable, creative, and tough guy, and he's lucky he got the win here. I thought Gerald won the fight, and Gerald, very underrated fighter, 30-12 record in his career, and his UFC run hasn't got, I think, his plan with just a 5-4 record himself, same record as Anders, but the loss to Kevin Hall and the loss to Anders really could have went either way, and right now he could be 7-2 instead of 5-4. So he's kind of had some bad luck with the judges, but yeah, super close fight. I don't know if it's worth complaining about, but I did, for what it's worth, think Meerschaert edged it out. All right, let's get to the prelims now. There was a lot to talk about here. Really good card again. All right, Ryan Spann defeats Devin Clark via guillotine choke. And Ryan Spann, it's crazy to me that he was only like a -140 favorite. This guy had so many advantages over Devin Clark. Man, I think this guy could be a top 10 dude in the light heavyweight division very soon. They need new top 10 talents, and I think Ryan Spann's one of those guys. 17-5 now, call him Superman, 28 years old. He's looked great in the UFC. 3 straight wins. Luis Henrique, Antonio Rogero Nogueira. I was there for that fight. Knocked him out with an uppercut. It was brutal. And then Devin Clark. So he's looked really good. Very much improved. Very well-rounded guy. Knockout power, submission prowess, wrestling, cardio. This guy's solid, and he's massive too. He's huge. 6'5". He's a really big dude. So I think Ryan Spann has a lot of potential. 205, only 28 years old. Very impressive. Devin Clark, once again, it's either he wins the decision or he loses by stoppage. And he's 10-4 now. In the UFC, he is, let's count it up here, 4-4. So, very up and down. And he's had a 2-fight win streak once, but it's been 3 years. And I don't know. I feel like he's not a top 15 guy. He's like a top 25, top 30 guy. I think the guy does have some good wrestling skills, but he's not durable enough. He gets finished in all his losses. And, at 205, when you're fighting heavy hitters with guys that can submit you to, like Ryan Spann, it's just not a good combination. So, Devin Clark, I think, could be released after this. And if he is, I think PFL would be a good spot for him. Next up, okay, now this fight, I got to talk about this fight. Mike Davis defeats Thomas Gifford via 3rd-round knockout and just an absolute beatdown. I remember when this fight was announced, me and Cole were talking about it last Tuesday, and as soon as he said Mike Davis, I was like, man, I like Mike Davis here. And I was hoping he was going to be an underdog, but he opened as the favorite, and you can see why. This was just a terrible match for Thomas Gifford. Mike Davis looked great. 8-2 record now in his career. It's his first UFC win, and he'll obviously continue his contract now. It probably signed a 4-fight deal. He lost to Gilbert Burns. They gave him another fight in short notice. 4 days notice and puts on this kind of beating. But now we got to talk Thomas Gifford. I mean, first off, this dude's super tough. No doubt about it. Drops to 17-9, 0-2 in the UFC. So I expect him to be released, to be honest. He lost to Roberts and Davis now, but the guy's super tough. Now, having said that, I mean, I've already went on Twitter and talked about this, and I'd like to hear what you guys see in the chat room here, but oh my God, what a beating this dude took, and just a terrible fail job by the referee. Just a terrible fail job, and an absolute terrible fail job by his corner. I'm embarrassed. I mean, to me, it's like they're on Twitter defending the fact that this guy's tough and that he can take damage. And his dad was in his corner. Mark Montoya was a really good, well-respected coach. And, he's on Twitter defending this. I don't know how you can defend this. This was terrible. And I said this on Twitter, and I'm going to stand by it. We will see someone die in the UFC one day. It's inevitable, guys. And it's not something people want to talk about, but it's going to happen. People have died in MMA. People die in boxing, honestly, all the time. It's going to happen in the UFC. Someone will die from injury sustained in a fight. And I felt like this could have been the first one. I mean, this was just disgusting to watch. That knockout was just the cherry on top. I mean, brutal. The guy was 15 seconds away from getting to the decision, but wasn't able to get there and got viciously knocked out. Gifford's on social media now saying, he's fine. He's posting a picture of himself eating KFC, and he said he's feeling good now. And he said he's very Christian, and I respect that. It's fine with me, but he's like, oh, well, Jesus took these lashings. I have to take them too. And, it's like, All right, man. I respect the fact that you feel very strongly with religion, but come on, like this guy took an absolute beating, and unfortunately, he feels like he needed to take that beating for some reason, and I think that's just really sad. So his father in his corner, terrible job. Mark Montoya, terrible job, and the referee, an absolutely terrible job. This fight should have been stopped honestly between the first and second round, and if not, between the second and third round. Just absolutely disgusting. And again, I just feel like there was so much failure on so many different levels here. And Gifford, tough dude, good for him for hanging around, but he's just too tough for his own good. And I'm just really disgusted by the corner job here, and I just don't like how they're on social media defending it. They're not even listening to anyone. They're saying, "Oh, we know this guy better than you." Well, a lot of us watch fights for a living, and we've seen people die in boxing and MMA, and this was the kind of fight where the guy could have sustained life-threatening injuries. So just disgusting to watch. I don't think anyone wants to watch this kind of fight personally, and it wasn't fun to watch. It was just a beating, and reminded me of the Passion of the Christ, man. I'm not gonna lie. It was just when you got just beaten up. So terrible to watch. And Gifford, good for you, man. You're a tough dude, but your corner failed you, bro. Got to be honest. All right, a couple other things. I'll get to the questions in a second, guys. A couple other things here for the card. Alex Morono beats Max Griffin via unanimous decision. Solid performance here by Morono. Takes out Griffin. Could have went, it was pretty close. Right? Really could have went either way, but Morono did a little bit more. I think it was that second round he hurt Griffin, and that was the difference in this fight. Davison Figueiredo defeats Tim Elliott via submission. Guillotine choke in the first round. Great performance here by Figueiredo. Calls for a title shot against Benavidez. I'd like to see it. If Henry Cejudo doesn't want to fight, defend that title at 125, then give it up and let Figueiredo and Benavidez battle for it. Makes sense. And for Elliott, first fight in 2 years, loses. He might be released. I mean, it could happen. He's been released before, but you'd like to see the guy get another fight considering the long layoff. Next up, Marlon Vera defeats Andre Ewell. Third round stoppage. Great performance by Vera. 5 straight finishes by this guy. He's just unbelievable to watch. Time for a top 15 opponent. It's crazy he didn't get one yet. And also it's crazy with the line. I mean, how is he only minus 140? This was such a good matchup for him, and he just absolutely smashed Ewell, who has been up and down in his career as well. So Marlon Vera, 5 straight wins now by stoppage. This guy is absolutely due for a top 15 opponent, if not a top 10 opponent. Next up, Miguel Baeza defeats Hector Aldana via second round TKO. He knocked him down with the leg kick and then finished with a ground and pound. Great performance by Baeza, 8-0 now in his career. This guy's unbelievable. One of the better, I think, signings from the Contender Series. Excellent fighter, and very impressive performance. And for Aldana, 3 straight losses in the UFC, 4-3 record. That's it for him in the UFC. Marvin Vettori defeats Andrew Sanchez via unanimous decision. It was a blow of 30-27. So Vettori gets another win here. This guy's very underrated. I think it's time for a top 15 opponent for him. I mean, this guy went to a split decision with Adesanya, guys. He's a very solid fighter. And JJ Aldrich opening up the card defeats Lauren Muir via unanimous decision. Aldrich saved her job. Lauren Mueller 1-3 in her career in the UFC, so that's probably it for her in the octagon. So overall, I think an excellent card. Man, there's some good finishes on this card. Obviously, that Gifford fight, I think, really was tough to watch, but overall, very, very good card. One of the better cards of the year, I think, as far as fight nights go. And this weekend, I'm looking forward to UFC Boston. So that's actually Friday, guys. I gotta keep that in mind here. And for you guys, keep it in mind, Friday. So it's not a Saturday night card; it's a Friday night card in Boston. And I will be breaking down the card in its entirety with Cole Sheldon tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to doing that with Cole. Probably do it at about 11 or 12. I'll let you guys know tomorrow. All right, let me get to the questions now. Let's see here. Marcus Williams, what's your thoughts on the Ali and Abe Caldwell controversy? Well, there was some dust up, I guess, at PFL. You can go to bjpen.com. We have the article there. There's a small video too. Anthony Pettis, I think someone took it. Pettis was involved as well. Not a great video, but what are my thoughts on it? I mean, it's, manager drama in MMA. It's kind of funny, if anything, but I'm glad no one was seriously injured. But Ali, man, he keeps getting in these little skirmishes at PFL cards. I got to give these guys the Body Lock MMA. They did a really good article. I think it was yesterday on Ali, and they had a bunch of incidents at PFL apparently where he was getting into it with different fans and stuff. So check that out, guys. It's over at Body Lock. Got to give those guys a shout out. They're doing a good job. Let's see here. Adrian Kapoor, Jessica just lost. Rose MIA, Tatiana neck surgery. Nina wants a year off. So Joanna should get a title shot. Yeah, she should. And now that her foot's not broken, that's good. He had it for Pena, 29-28. Yeah, it was a close fight, and you're right. For Vola fighting at home, it did help him. OSP versus Span next. Sounds good to me. It's a good fight. OSP coming off a win over Michael Lexiak. Span coming off a couple wins. Sounds good to me. And Span, I don't know if OSP's ranked right now, actually. I think Span should be a top 15 guy, but you know what? That is a good fight. Honestly, OSP probably should be ranked number 15 if he isn't right now. And the ref, Andrew Glenn, was garbage. He was garbage, and so was the corner, and so was the father in the corner. Just terrible. And they let that guy down. Poor dude. Also, I got to mention, you mentioned OSP. Apparently, some guy on Reddit, oh my gosh. And I actually wrote the story of BJ Penn. Just it's sort of a joke, if anything. But some dude got a tattoo of OSP's initials on his butt after he submitted Alexiak with that Von Flue choke. He said he wouldn't do it, and he bet some guy that he'd get initials on his butt of OSP if he wouldn't get the Von Flue, and he did. So, of course, he actually lived up to it, and he got the tattoo. So he pulled a John Anik there, got the tattoo. I thought it was hilarious. Go check that out. All right, let's get to Bellator quickly. I was not able to watch this card with the tape delay and stuff. I just wasn't able to watch it. I watched UFC, the whole thing. So there's a lot of MMA going on, guys. So let's be fair here. But I will go through the card here. Lexio Sakar defeats Cannon Grigsby. First round knockout, 23 seconds. Good for Sakar. Gets another win in Italy. He's been pretty solid when fighting in Italy. Gerald Harris is calling him out. He wants to fight him. Apparently Grigsby's his teammate. He wants to get revenge. Sure, let's do it. Lexio Sakar versus Gerald Harris. I like Gerald Harris. Stefano Paterno defeats Ashley Rios in unanimous decision. Melvin Manhoff gets a knockout win in the first round over Yannick Pahadi. Good for Manhoff, 43 years old, still knocking people out. Rafael Macedo defeats Kane Musa via split decision. That was an upset. There were odds for a few of these fights. And Vadim Nemkov defeats Rafael Carvalho via second round submission. Very good fighter, Vadim Nemkov, 11-2 in his career now. In Bellator, he is, what's his record here? It is 4-0. He's beaten Phil Davis, Liam McGarry, Philippe Lins, and Rafael Carvalho. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think there's a good chance this guy could fight Ryan Bader at some point. It looks like Bader wants to fight Yuri Prochazka, who actually has a win over Vadim Nemkov and Ryzen. I'd like to see that fight more. I want to see Bader versus Prochazka. That's a great fight. But this guy Nemkov is definitely moving his way up the rankings at 205. Not that there is rankings in Bellator. I think they only have a few 205ers. Kirill Sidolnikov, maybe Fedor defeats Dominigos Barros. Walter Pugolesi defeats Andrea Fusi, and Nicolo Soli defeats Daniel Castle. There were odds on that fight as well. So, again, didn't really watch this card. If anyone did and they want to chime in on it, feel free to throw a comment in there. But yes, I think the standout guy was probably Nemkov getting that win over Carvalho for champion in Bellator. So good for him. All right, let's get to PFL now. This card, I think it was slept on by some people, and unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people watched it, but I did actually end up watching this. It was on TSN in Canada. And it was honestly a pretty good card. So give me a second. It's going to pull it out here. PFL, Professional Fighters League. You know, I like what PFL does, guys. You know, they do something different. It doesn't have to be what the UFC does. It doesn't have to be what Bellator does. PFL has a different format, and I like their format personally. I think it's cool. I think it's good for the fighters. Fighters seem to really like fighting for them. They seem to be respected. It's on ESPN. There's a lot to like about PFL, in my opinion. So let's get to this card. Opening up the card, non-tournament bout, Brandon Lofton defeats Matt Waggy via decision. Good for Lofton, gets the win, but I think a lot of people expect him to get the finish, so it's unfortunate he didn't, but either way, he gets the win, and I expect him to absolutely be in their next tournament. Same with this guy, Nikolai Alex Sakin, defeats Jesse Ronson via decision. He should be their next tournament as well. Gets a knockout, actually, in the first round, so that's how he won that fight. Now let's get to the tournament fights. First fight was a draw between Sabadusi and Ray Cooper 3, but Ray Cooper advanced to the next round. Ray Cooper, obviously, very good fighter. I'll talk about him in a second here. Glenko Franca defeats Andre Fiala via majority decision. Magomed Karamov defeats Chris Curtis via unanimous decision. And David Michaud defeats John Howard via unanimous decision. Getting to the women's bouts in the semifinals for the women's, Larissa Pacheco defeats Sarah Coffin via unanimous decision. I did call this upset. She was like plus 200. I really like Pacheco in this fight. Coffin's a great fighter, but to me, she was the favorite because of her name. Pacheco is the younger fighter and, to me, the fresher fighter. And honestly, she has a lot of experience. So if people were sleeping on her, she gets the job done. She'll get the rematch with Kaylee Harrison, who defeats Bobby Joe Dalzo on very short notice. I think she took the fight on like a couple days' notice, if not 1 day's notice. So no surprise there. Gets the first round submission. So we're going to see a rematch between Harrison and Pacheco for the title. I mean, you have to favor Harrison quite a bit. She should be able to win that fight, I think, pretty easily. But, you know, Pacheco, of all the women in the tournament, probably has the best chance. Even though she's already lost to her, she probably does have the best chance. I just don't think that chance is very high. And I expect Kay Harrison to be a massive favorite once again. And as far as the men's welterweight semifinal bouts, Ray Cooper defeats Chris Curtis via second round knockout. Now, this was crazy. Chris Curtis retired after the fight against Magomed Karamov, which was his second straight loss to Magomed Karamov, retires. And then they say Magomed Karamov is puking, can't fight, he's got a concussion, you got to fight him. So Chris Curtis unretired, and then came back from the cage. So that was probably the record for the shortest MMA retirement. Maybe you see some short ones, guys, but this is going to be the shortest one ever. Goes back in there and unfortunately gets starched by Ray Cooper. So, you got to give Chris Kerr credit here. I mean, he took the fight on 20 minutes notice. So that's crazy to me. But I mean, if you retire and then you go back in the cage, it's like your mind's probably not in the fight. So unfortunately for him, it's a bad match against Ray Cooper 3, who looks like he's got a good chance to win this because he's going to be fighting David Michaud, who defeats Glego Franca in the other semifinal bout. And David Michaud, good for him, man. This guy's super durable, super tough. This is going to be a good fight. I like this fight. Ray Cooper for 3 versus David Michaud. But with that knockout power, you have to favor Ray Cooper 3. I mean, I know Michaud has that cardio and he's a pretty solid fighter himself, but Ray Cooper 3 should be a big favorite in this fight, in my opinion, and I think he will be. So overall, I think it was a good card, guys. Honestly, again, a card that gets slept on, but I like what PFL does, and they actually have a card this Thursday as well. So they have another semifinal bouts in the featherweight and lightweight division. So some good fights there, but I will be breaking that down later in the week. That's on, like I said, on actually Thursday, not Friday, because Friday has the UFC. And then there's actually a card in a couple weeks. That'll be their last card of the year. And then the final card, not the final card of the year, the final card of the semifinal rounds. And then the final card of the year is Tuesday, December 31st in New York. So a couple more cards in Las Vegas and then the one at New York in the year. And again, I like what PFL is doing. No, not for everyone, but I personally like what they're doing. Let me get to a couple of fight announcements here. Tim Means versus Thiago Alves, UFC Washington, D.C. Really like this fight. 2 guys that are veterans of the UFC at this point. Thiago Alves, obviously, he's been fighting in the UFC forever. He made his UFC debut 2005, still in the UFC 15 years later. So that's incredible. He's struggled a lot lately, coming off of 3 of his last 4 fights being losses. But, he's still a durable guy. It's tough to finish and usually goes the distance. Taking on Tim Means here. Tim Means coming off that brutal knockout loss to Nico Price earlier this year. He's also lost 3 of his last 4 fights. This is a close fight. Really can go either way. 2 strikers going at it. Alves somehow is only 36. You think he'd be older considering he's been fighting forever, but Tim Means 35. I favor Tim Means a little bit. You guys know I love Tim Means. Well, I'll always favor him against mid-level guys like Thiago Alves, but stylistically, it's a fight go either way. So it'll kind of depend on how the odds shake up to where my official pick will be. And then the other new fight announcement here is Markus Perez against Wellington Turman in UFC Sao Paulo. Markus Perez, he's been a little bit up and down in his career in the UFC as well. He is 2-2 in the octagon, but coming off a great win over Anthony Hernandez. So good win for him here. And then takes on Wellington Turman, who lost a split decision to Carl Robertson in his UFC debut, 15-3 record. And before that, won 4 straight fights, including a win over Marshall Alexander Jr. That's Lyoto Jr. And Lyoto Jr. is the only guy who has a win over Paulo Costa and the Ultimate Fighter. So Lyoto Jr. was a guy in the UFC for a while. He's not there anymore, but he does have a win over Paulo Costa that no one talks about anymore because it was so long ago. So that's it as far as fight announcements go. Probably in some other promotions they announced them, but those are the UFC ones. Let's see if there's any other questions. That's it. So, all right, guys, I think that's it. That's enough to talk about today. My voice is getting pretty tired now, but UFC Tampa, great card, and the other cards were really solid as well. So I have a bunch of articles over at bjpen.com, so definitely go over there, check it out. Lots of recap articles, lots of articles talking about the fights from yesterday. So definitely check it out at bjpen.com. And, of course, MMAObspeaker.com. I'll have my preview for UFC Boston probably up either today or tomorrow. And like I said yesterday or earlier today, I'll be doing the podcast with Cole Sheldon tomorrow at either 11 or 12. I'll let you guys know tomorrow. But I will be doing this regular podcast at 10 o'clock as always. So definitely check that out. And also check me out on MMARanks.net. I'll definitely have an article coming out over there today or tomorrow as well. So, guys, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the questions. Send them in anytime you have a question. I always want to answer them for you guys. So thanks again for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow breaking down the latest in the world of MMA. Have a great day, guys, and happy Thanksgiving for any Canadians out there. It is a holiday today, but I pretty much work every day, so I'll always be here doing the podcast, and now I'm going to go enjoy some lunch very shortly, some turkey hopefully, and that's it. So have a good day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.